you made a lot of movies in time when there was double bill screening, when you had this news in the cinema, the B film, and then the main picture. But now this area is over. Now they show actually just one picture, one screening. So would it be more difficult now to make low budget movies to get into this to the big cinemas? Because what I hear that you mostly produce pictures for television at the moment.
At the moment, most of our pictures are for television, particularly cable television, or for home video. Mm-hmm. I was saying in an interview this morning that when I started, every single picture I made went into theaters. Today, no more than about 1 in 10 goes into theaters. Mm-hmm. The era of the double bill, however, ended a long time ago. It ended in the late 1950s. And since then, just as I was starting, so it's been single features all that time, but what's happened is the major studios have come to dominate so much that we've been forced aside. So in answer to your question, rephrase the question for me, please.
Well, what I want to know, because there are a lot of people here who want to make low budget movies, but maybe they also want to get them into the cinemas. So how do you do that with a low budget? Because mostly in cinemas you see big budget movies. I can remember that Spike Lee shot Bamboozled on the video because he didn't get any money for his project. But it was still in the cinema, but it was badly viewed by just a few people. And when normally he puts a big picture with a lot of money, then it will be shown into the cinemas. So is there maybe a way to get low budget movies into the cinema?
There is. It's very, very difficult. You have to accept the fact that your low budget film will probably not go into a cinema. But here is where you go to William Goldman's statement, nobody knows anything. Just as I say, you look at what has happened before and you make a genre type of film. That's the safest way to make a film, but that film will probably not go into a cinema. The type of low budget or medium budget films that will go into a cinema are generally edgier films. They would be what would be called in Europe an auteur film. For instance, I could make a low-budget science fiction film or a low-budget horror film, and providing I know what I'm doing and I make a good film, I'm just about guaranteed of a home video release and a television release, where I'm also pretty much guaranteed that I will not go into theaters. However, you make some personal film that is important to you that is not in a genre, you have a better chance of getting into a theater with that because you have something that is new and that is original. On the other hand, you make a science fiction or horror film that isn't quite as good as you expected, you still can get some money out of home video and television. You make an auteur-driven film that isn't quite as good as expected, and you're probably not going to get any money anywhere. So it's you can play it either way. As a matter of fact, my son has a master's in business, and he explains it simply as a risk-reward ratio. You probably, I don't even have to explain it, I think you would all understand what he means. In other words, the greater the risk, the greater the reward.
Okay.
I think I'm constantly watching my clock, and I don't want to run into the problem of our 4 pitchers not being able to pitch their project, so I propose that I finish my questionnaire about the process of financing, producing and releasing low budget movies. Then we have the pitch sessions, and then any questions from the audience maybe we can save until the end, if that's hopefully okay with everyone. You were just telling us about how you could find money in other countries. We're talking about pre-sales then, I guess?
Yes, simply that, pre-sales, foreign distribution.
How does that process work? How do you find generally speaking? How do you find potentially interested buyers in other countries?
You would probably go to a film market and through an established foreign distributor. If you're new, you probably will be with a small foreign distributor who will gamble. The film markets in order, the biggest is the American film market every fall in Santa Monica, California. The second biggest is Cannes, and the third biggest is Berlin. Those are the three major markets. There are a few other markets. Toronto has some meeting, Hong Kong has a meeting, but really the American film market, Cannes and Berlin, in that order, are your most likely targets.
You also mentioned the tax shelters. That's what they're called, right? How do these generally work?
Well, you can almost tell me because I have some experience of them because I established a company and a studio in Ireland to take advantage of the Irish tax shelter. But it varies from country to country. I understand there is a tax shelter, and my wife, who's also a producer, is meeting with somebody tomorrow to find out about the Dutch tax shelter. Generally, it's an investor who invests in motion pictures is given a credit against their income tax. So he or she does not necessarily have to make a profit on the film. They will make a profit if they get their money back because they gain 15 or 20% from the government on the tax shelter. The biggest and most successful one was Germany up until very recently. It was very heavily abused by a few friends of mine, as a matter of fact, in which budgets were vastly inflated and the German government got very excited about the whole thing and it has modified it.
Basically speaking, this means that people who have some money to spend can decide to invest it in a film or bring it to the tax department.
Yes. They wouldn't bring it, and again, this varies from country to country. You yourselves are in a better position to know your situation here in the Netherlands than I am. I just know that it exists. But a typical thing is for somebody to put up, let's say an individual investor, to put it in round numbers, puts up $100,000. And that somebody else puts up and so forth to make the film. He puts up $100,000. He gets an immediate $20,000 deduction from his income taxes. That's what's called a tax shelter. Then his job is just to get his $100,000 back. If he gets his $100,000 back and the picture breaks even, he's made $20,000. Matter of fact, he can lose money. He can get $90,000 back. He can lose $10,000 off of his 100, and he's still $10,000 ahead because he's gotten a $20,000 deduction. That's an example. It varies in practice from country to country. I will just say this: the combination of these tax shelters and some film funds combined with pre-selling foreign and maybe pre-selling in your own country to television or to home video, you put all of this together, and it's much more difficult than the way I describe it. You can raise a great deal of your money, and then you can start working with deferments, in which you pay somebody half their normal salary and say, I'll give you 120% of your salary when the picture breaks even, things like this. In other words, all kinds of, there's an infinite number of ways to put all of these elements together.
So then we get to the actual production process of the film. How long do you shoot on average on a film?
Our average is 3 to 4 weeks, and our budgets are anywhere from $300,000 to $1 million, or maybe a little bit over $1 million. Just as important, however, and here is one of the most important things I can say to you. The pre-production period is just as important as the production period. You want to plan your picture as efficiently and as well as you can in pre-production so that on the first day of shooting, the director doesn't walk on the set and say, where shall I put the camera? The director walks on the set and says, the camera goes here, the actors go there, light it, and we'll shoot. Matter of fact, Ron Howard has gone to his film, who started with me. I assume the Da Vinci Code will be the biggest picture this year. On the first picture he ever did as a director, he was a very good actor, and he'd acted for me. And when I said, okay, Ron, you can direct, I always believed that Ron had rehearsed this as an actor. Because everybody looks to a new director on the first shot to see if he knows what he's doing. The crew gets confidence. Ron walked onto the set and said exactly what I just said. He said, the camera goes here. I forgot Marion. The actress comes in the door. The camera is there with a 30 lens. We're dolling along here. We pan with Marion. She sits down in that chair and she picks up the telephone, and we cut when she picks up the telephone. He said, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. Call me when the set is lit. The crew immediately knew Ron knew what he was doing. One of the phrases is he had done his homework. He had prepared. Now, I will then say this. You're never going to, the goal is to prepare every shot. Almost nobody ever does, but if you can prepare 60, 70, 80% of your shots, the others will come to you. Knowing this, you'll never shoot a picture exactly according to your plan. Either the plan doesn't work, it looked great when you were drawing it up, and on the set it doesn't work, or you get a better idea on the set. But at least if you have the plan, you'll shoot 70, 80% of the film according to your plan, and it gives you a framework to work from.
Do you also shoot digitally these days?
Yes. I'm a great believer in digital. And I give you, just because I know our time is limited, I never said this when we're still working with film. When we work with film exclusively, I never talked about the camera. There were only 3 or 4 makes of cameras and they were all good. It didn't make any difference. Today, however, shooting digitally, you have to be very careful about your camera. You have to have a good camera. An inferior camera will not give you the quality that you need commercially. So you and your director of photography must decide what the camera is, and you must be aware that it might be to your benefit to spend a little bit more on the camera than you had planned, either buying or renting, because when you're finished, all you've got is the image on the film or on the tape.
How do you control the budget?
You control the budget, again, in pre-production. It's a very careful process of planning your script, planning your production, knowing how much you have to spend, and knowing how many days you're going to shoot, and following that. Knowing, again, you never follow it exactly. You leave a little margin for error. Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have to do this indeed quickly and step by step. Once the film is shot, how long does the post-production process usually take? Is there an average?
Again, there's no real answer to that. It can take anywhere from, I'd say, a minimum of probably 2 months to a year. The year is for either a bigger budget picture or for if you have extremely complicated computer graphics and special effects, but it shouldn't take a year. I would say anywhere from 2 months to 6 months, even with the most complicated computer graphics.
Because when you start up, when you finance a project, you'll know when it will be finished and ready for delivery.
You know, and again, you know approximately. You don't know for certain, but you have a general idea. Generally, within a week or 2, you can predict it.
Okay, my last question. Can you get rich making low-budget films?
Yeah. However, I will say this, the odds are against you. It's just as coming from California. California started with a great gold rush. Anybody could get rich. but the odds were against each individual person, but some people did it.